It hasn't started yet, but it's...
Hasn't started?
No, he's just talking about it.
Oh.
Basically, like, everything in the game is randomized, even the souls of each dead person. So, or not, the souls of all the enemies. So, like, if you go into a room and you're supposed to kill, like, a certain enemy, they won't be there, so you can't even like get that chest. And then the other one, like stuff like the A and C buttons for your ocarina, they're all randomized, so you can't even play a song until you find the buttons for.
Oh.
And every plant, every pot could have one of those items in it. It's really fun. I've been playing on like...
Just changes the gameplay?
Yeah, I've played it like 5 times through now, Ocarina of Time, and I really enjoy it just makes you like go through all these different locations you never knew existed, because you're like trying to find every pot to break it to see if you can get like the freaking fire arrow, because you need it to get to the next part, and you're just like...
Exploring different places that you've never
there's
been.
so many places I never knew Ocarina of Time had. It's cool. Okay, that's how we started this episode. This is episode 3 of TOC TALKS. We were just talking about Legend of Zelda randomizers. There's one playing in the background that I like. I go to sleep to this guy once in a while. He's funny. What's his name? I think he's like Majin Phil or Majin Phil. I don't know what the fuck his name is.
That's Dawson, and I'm TJ.
That is TJ.
Welcome to the podcast.
TJ. Let me just make sure these cameras all look good.
How long is this video?
So it's like a recap video, but this one probably took him like 14, 15, 16 hours. Like the VOD is super long on Twitch. Yeah. I think he did it over the course of like 2 or 3 days. Because it not only combines Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. So you go through the Happy Mask shop, and then you end up in Clock Tower of Majora's Mask.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And so it's like you go back and forth. So if you get you can get a sword from Ocarina of Time in Majora's Mask. So you can't use it in Majora's Mask, but you can go back to Ocarina of Time and use it. It's pretty cool. I haven't done the Majora's Mask one because I haven't really played that game enough to like
That's
know
so
it.
up your alley, though.
I'm gonna get there for sure. Alrighty. So we are going to do a hat. This is the hat from Saloon that I wore, and there is topics in this, and TJ is going to pick one. And
Just one?
Yep.
All right. What is your approach to writing? And oh gosh, I don't know what this says.
Let me read it. It says, "What is your approach to writing and analyzing music?"
Oh, analyzing. Okay.
Analyzing. I might not have spelled it right.
I don't know. I can't spell either.
Yeah, so we were chatting earlier, or just in general, TJ and I tend to have different approaches to how we like view music. I'm always more of like I don't know how to explain it. I'm not more of like I'm not a lyrical guy. Never have been. TJ, on the other hand, is much more lyrical than me. And so sometimes we have a lot of debates about what makes a song special. Is it the lyrics? Is it the structure? Is it the melody? Is it the mix? Is it maybe the risk of the song? Like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Go ahead, TJ.
There's so many things. I think, like, fundamentally, we kind of agree, like, kind of just when you feel something from a song, that's when you know you like it, like, kind of just a base level. But as far as lyrics go, yeah, like, you don't give a shit. And I don't always listen to lyrics, like, when I'm listening to music, like, actively listening to them, but definitely there's like stuff that stands out, like when like a lyric hits in a song on a certain part, like it just works really well. That's really important to me when I hear a song, of like, does it sound cool, not just does it work lyrically with like the theme of the song. So like, it also has to sound cool.
So you care about the context, but you also care about the way that the word sounds. Yeah. And that's kind of where I think we agree on is it's really interesting. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. it's interesting because there's a lot of songs that'll be translated into a different language, and it's so weird how like it works because so much of that song was built around the way that that lyric hit at that one exact spot to either make it rhyme or like this and that, and it doesn't do that anymore. Like you lost all that like momentum. And then the other one too is like there's certain bands like Dance Gavin Dance is like a good example. Like they don't really have lyrics. Like it's just a bunch of mumble jumble words that sound really cool. And I honestly, to me, I don't give a shit. Like I think that's awesome because I don't care about the lyrics. I just want it to sound cool. I want that syllable and the way that that particular, letter and whatever is being said is like the way that it is. It just like hits better that way. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm super picky when it comes to lyrics though, in general. Like if someone uses a phrase that is really generic, it instantly turns me off. Like if there's like the hook of the song is something that's like a cliche that's in a lot of other songs, it instantly is like, this song is down like 5 levels for me. Like this just tanks it.
What are the top 5?
Gosh, I mean, a lot of stuff from when we were younger, I think, is still getting perpetuated. And I've been going back and listening to like a lot of older music recently, like, Genesis and stuff like that. And there's so many songs where I'm like, so Phil Collins was doing this? Like he wrote that lyric 40 years ago and people are still writing this? Like Out of My Mind is always something that's rhymed with something else. And I'm guilty of it too. Like I've written stuff that's cliche, but there's like the throw me to the wolves. That's in every song. Like
Swallow Your Pride.
Yeah. There's just like certain things that are like, I don't even care if it doesn't even fit the moment because it's just been done.
Yeah.
Too frequently.
I think that there's certain phrases that are just super cheesy that ruin it for me too. But like there's bands out there that I just don't understand. More of like the poety shit. Like Law Dispute is a perfect example. I don't understand. Like to me, the music is complete garbage, but that's just my personal preference. I don't enjoy that type of music, but people are like so drawn to the lyrics, and that's cool, but like to me I just don't. Nothing about that makes sense to me.
I get it on a certain level. Like there's artists like NF or like Louis Capaldi where like the music, it doesn't really matter to me, but it is more of like the lyrical content that I'm drawn to in the song. Like that's not why I listen to it. So there's that aspect to it that I get, but I don't understand it with artists like Law Dispute or Me Without You, because it sounds like they're trying to be emotional. It doesn't sound like they're actually feeling it. It sounds like they're trying to feel that thing.
Yeah.
And that is a huge turnoff for me. Like I think Listener does it differently to where it feels like he means what he says with every word. Like it just feels like it's authentic. But that's not the case for all those bands, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, there's certain ways to approach it, and sometimes it's better than others. I don't know. To me, that's just such a subgenre that's like not my particular taste. And you can bring it back to like movies. Like my taste in movies is different too, because when I look at a song, I care about the melody, I care about the beat, and I care about the mix and the production and all that stuff. And like the last thing I care about a lot of the times is the lyrics. In movies, however, if the script isn't good, then I don't want to have anything to do with that movie, which is weird because you would think, well, shouldn't you care about the fight scenes, which you could maybe say is like the mix of, you know what I mean, or the production quality, or don't you care about the cinematography, which goes back to the mix and the production quality. And a lot of times a movie can look absolute trash, but if the message and the script is amazing, I actually like it. So it's weird how I don't look at it that way with music opposed to movies.
Yeah, for me, it's just different in every form of media. Because with movies, I'm kind of the same way, but like I don't mind a really bad script if I'm entertained. Like the biggest thing is like if I'm bored, that's what sucks. Like so much of like a lot of TikTok music that's coming out is like people have made this music since bedroom producers have been a thing. Yeah. And like I've already heard this 12 times. Like, don't bore me. It's kind of going back to the lyrics. Like I've heard that I'm bored.
That's true. I feel like being famous on TikTok for your songs is almost a death sentence. Do you feel that?
There's a couple artists that I found through TikTok though that I really enjoy. So I don't know. I think it's kind of just like in the MySpace days when like just after we were starting to come up, or just before we were coming up, where it's like everyone was shitting on all these bands, and then there's like a few outliers that have lasted, bands like The Main that have come from MySpace and like have continued to make a career, you know? So like, I don't know. I feel like it's with everything, but there's a shit ton of shit.
It's just TikTok. Like you hear like, I don't know, like what's that one song that you always hear when it's like, oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 no. What song is that?
I don't know.
No one knows. That's the problem. That band, their songs are being used for everything, but no one knows who that is. Oh. And no one wants to hear that. No one's going to go to a show to want to hear that song. Of course, it's probably a song that's been sped. I think it's a song that's been sped up like 50 BPM to sound like that. Same thing with like the Lady Gaga song that was like super popular when Wednesday, the show came out, and it was like, I didn't
even know that was from Wednesday, but
no, it's not from Wednesday.
Oh,
it's a dance that was inspired by Wednesday. That's a Lady Gaga song that people did to the dance of that show, but the song that they used in the show is not the same song. But anyways, they speed up these stupid songs. No one knows who it is. And as an artist, I would be so pissed off that someone took my song, sped it up 50 BPM, and now everyone's using it for their reels.
Yeah, and now it's like a joke.
It's a joke, and no one wants to ever hear it live. Who wants to hear a meme live? Nobody. But anyways.
I don't know. Speaking of like TikTok music though, a thing that I've noticed a trend with like a lot of younger artists, they're spelling things out. So there's like the old Gwen Stefani, I think it was the Bananas. But now every TikTok kid is spelling out everything. There's like this pretty old at this point, but the ABCD I don't give a fuck about you song. There's all these like nursery rhyme because they're so catchy and hook. Like you already know the hook, so it's just already catchy. But then they're spelling shit out. I'm like, oh man, that drives me crazy. It feels so condescending. Like I'm not in preschool. Like I don't need you to tell me how to spell. It just drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's really weird. TikTok is really just the one-hit wonder of everybody at all times. If you are on TikTok long enough, you will become a one-hit wonder with any video that you do at some point. Which is the point. Everyone at some point will be like, oh, my video got 2 million views. Oh my God. And then you never get that ever again.
Yeah. I mean,
it's so weird.
We did experience that.
Yeah, we did. We did.
But we didn't care. We were like, oh my God, we're famous now. It was like, great.
It ruined we had to change our TikTok account because what ended up happening was we posted a video of my brother, of Kyle, pouring gasoline on on a big bonfire that we had for Thanksgiving. And, you know, we're North Idaho. We do our shit, and it's just him throwing gas on this big brush pile. And of course, we filmed it, and then we made a big trail of gasoline, and then started it, and it lit up the whole thing. Well, that took off on TikTok for all the wrong reasons because it had nothing to do with our band. And then from that point on, TikTok just assumed that we're one of those like epic fail TikToks.
We're like Jackass or something.
Yeah, and so every video after that was music related again, and then instead of it being like millions of views or hundreds of, because we were doing really well, we were getting like 20, 30,000 views on like actual ongoing concept stuff, and all of a sudden it went from like millions of views to just like 100 views, 200 views, 100 views, 60 views. And after doing a lot of research, it seems like that's a big part of how the algorithm works at TikTok, is that once you've established what your concept is of your TikTok, that's what it's going to be focusing all of its efforts on with that channel. So then we made a new one, and now it's doing better.
Well, and also that video was taken down or something too.
Oh yeah, it was taken down.
Our that account was kind of fucked. Like we had to make a new account because of that video.
Yeah, TikTok's messed up. So anyways, but going back to music. So going back to lyrics and how we analyze music, something that I was thinking about too is there's a lot of instrumental music that I think we both enjoy, has no lyrics in it. And what makes us like that?
Well, I mean, because the instruments can sing, right? Like, I don't know. I remember my mom would always say that about like certain Joe Satriani songs. Like, oh, like you can hear him singing with his guitar. I was like, oh, that's kind of true. Like and that's how you play guitar a lot of the time too, is like, it sounds like a vocal melody, you know?
Yeah.
You do those like kind of repetitive, just few note things. I think that's probably why. And a lot of like the reason that I like some instrumental stuff is just like it's music like from movies. So it'll just be soundtracks and stuff.
And that's a big part, I think, too, is that when I'm writing music, I'm always thinking about how this would look as a music video and how I could put it in a movie. Like I'm always imagining our music as like a score for a cinematic movie. And sometimes, like, if our band wasn't a band, I almost would like wish that there was no lyrics sometimes, because I feel like you can feel the power in music when you hear it in a movie, and obviously most of the time there's no lyrics in it, and it makes you feel something that I oftentimes don't feel with a song. When I see it visually and I see a big cinematic moment and I feel the music and the cinematography, it's something that I can't feel with just music alone. But then adding vocals on top of music then ruins it, in the sense that like you can't add that with the visuals either. It's hard to explain like how I look at it that way, but I don't know. I instrumental music, I feel like is such a big part of me that's why lyrics to me I don't give two shits about.
Yeah. I don't know. There's like certain, I don't listen to a lot of instrumental stuff, but like I love the soundtrack for like The White Lotus. Just more interesting, kind of weird sounding shit, but it's not something that I just put on, because like my go-to is just rock music. So
it just varies so much for me.
Yeah.
And I don't listen to a lot of music in general, so I just find myself enjoying silence.
Yeah. I think out of everyone, like maybe Andy does too, but like I listen to music, I feel like more what like other people, how they listen to music with Spotify and playlists and stuff. And you guys are very different with how you consume music. Like all of you guys are.
Parker feels more in line with how you listen to music, I think.
I think as he's getting older though, it's changed. And like Kyle, even like when he was younger, he would just listen to one record on repeat for months. Like just same CD in his car. I did that a couple times with certain albums, but that wasn't like a regular thing. So I think we just all consume music pretty differently.
Yeah.
Because you always watch the YouTube. Like you're always like, watch the music video.
Now, I will say this. How many times, since I don't listen to a lot of music, how many times have I shown you a song from an artist that then became one of your favorite artists? It's really weird.
So many times. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could be like a really good A&R person. Yeah. Because you do that all the time. Like some of my favorite bands are because of you. Like
and I don't even listen to music.
Album was like, we were obsessed with that. MKTO, Don Broco, Def Havana, Lakeview Now. Like there's so many bands that are your fault.
I know.
It's crazy. You like actually curated a lot of my musical taste.
And I think it's because I don't listen to music enough. So like when something pops up, the algorithm on all of my stuff is very like, it's weird. It's very different. And so I'm getting more obscure random things that are just popping up out of nowhere that you aren't getting because you're convoluted with all of this other like mainstream stuff. And so my list is just so random. Like Bill Murray is another one that I think I showed you guys too. Like
one of my favorite
like lots
artists,
of random stuff like that.
Yeah, Bill. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that because we had that on that Discord chat. Somebody said like they don't really fall in love with like new artists. Like, man, there's so many. Like even the Home Team, like in the last year, like that album. I don't know. It's never changed for me, at least even as I've gotten older. Like I still listen to albums and I'm like, holy shit! Like it's music still affects me the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. There's something too about music written years ago. Like it kind of feels like there was that paradigm, like 2012, like the world ended shift sometimes, where you look back on like songs from the 70s and 80s and 90s, and like the way that they sound, it's hard to explain it, but it's like there's something there that isn't hitting the way that it hits now. Like there's no passion behind it.
I think it's probably just the lack of real instruments, right?
I think it just comes down to like every person at the time didn't know how to do anything. Like they didn't know how to mix. They didn't know how to produce. They just learned how to do it. And they couldn't just go online and like see how someone else was doing it. So every single person had their own unique way of doing everything. So when you went to a studio, someone would be like, yeah, I heard a rumor that like if you use this plugin or this compressor, this analog compressor, if you do this, it does this. But I just heard it randomly from someone that heard it from someone else. So everyone was like actually becoming their own DIY unique person.
Yeah.
And so that's why and they had so much passion to make themselves sound really good, but they couldn't just go on Google and be like, how do you make vocals sound good? So now everything sounds the same. Yeah. Like every ad that I see on Facebook is always like the same 4 things. It's always Steven Slate, STL Tones, Neural DSP. And it just means that everybody's using those like 7 companies. Yeah. Like it's stupid.
I think there's a lot more to it than that too. Because like you also have to think about the climate of the music industry at the time, where like it was like really big artists with like really big producers putting a lot of money into those records, as opposed to 2012. Around that time is when people started really producing albums from their bedrooms. So, and then with compressors and autotune, and I mean, Billie Eilish, I feel, has changed how a lot of like new pop artists are writing their music, and like the compression on Billie Eilish albums, like Phineas, has changed, I think, a lot of production. So I don't know. I think a lot of it just has to do with everything is just perfect, so it's lacking character.
Yeah, that McGee or whatever I showed you the other day.
McGee,
he just showed up in my Instagram or YouTube or something, and I was like, who is this? That is interesting because that's a concept of like character. Like it's his music videos are live
videos, yeah.
And it's weird. See, that's the cool thing. It's rare for me to find a band where like I enjoy the live version more than the studio one, and the studio stuff's good, but like not nearly as cool. And then his music videos are the live ones. Like that's genius to do, because that shows so much character. Like it's totally different vibe. It shows you probably what he envisioned when he wanted to do it. And like,
but they feel low production, but like a lot of care.
Yeah. Do you see how many people are behind that video?
No,
there's like 20 fucking people.
Really?
The credits are insane on the description.
Oh wow.
I was like,
I didn't even look at it.
A tripod shot, but with a guy on a
he's just sitting in the back of the pickup. Yeah.
It's crazy that unless he made them up to make it look more official.
Maybe there were people that like paid for supported him. I don't know.
I mean, it's all like director and then like grip and then like like it's like 20
for one
different
shot
for one still shot. Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, goes to show that budgets are still bloated.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I think about that though. Like when we were starting out, like doing music videos ourselves. And then like to see like behind the scenes footage of like bands that were at the same level, and like they would have like 20 people and like hire this whole like crew. Like we did it ourselves. Like, where are you getting this money from?
Yeah. And
how do you guys do this?
And it's like, you see it's like wardrobe and makeup. It's like, okay, I can maybe see makeup, but like all of the shots are with really bright lights where your makeup's going to start smearing already because it's so hot, and the shots are like far away of the band. Why do you need to be using?
Why do you need a costume person if everyone in the video is wearing the same thing?
They're
all wearing black. Yeah, it's like what? Yeah, I mean, if like a band like Sleep Token put that on their music video of like makeup and like wardrobe, I'd be like, fuck you guys. Like, don't you make this yourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, makeup for Slipknot or something. Like, what do you need makeup for? But yeah, you see that stuff, and it's like, what? And then on top of that, half the time you see these huge production videos and it goes through all of the credits and they never credit the person that actually mixed and mastered and produced the song. One of the most important parts. And that person always gets like buried. And it's like, that's the reason why this music video is happening, is because the song's good.
Yeah.
But no one's getting credit for that. Then you got to go down this deep dive of trying to figure out who produced the song. Yeah. But I feel like Josh Schrader, he was one of the first people, not one of the first, but he made a big stink about it last year. And ever since then, I feel like everybody's putting credits.
Oh, yeah?
Because it got really big. It was a big post he made. I think Lorna Shore forgot to put him on their credits for one of their music videos, and he was like kind of pissed about it. And then it gained traction, and they, I think, added his name, and then now I haven't seen a music video without credits.
I mean, it could have been good publicity for Lorna Shore at the end of the day, too.
Could have been.
You never know.
Who knows?
I was kind of thinking of talking about, again, speaking of like lyrics and stuff, because I had so much more of a hand at contributing to this album than the others. I was listening to like some of the tracks before we started recording, and like I think the lyrics mean something different to me than they did when we were writing the album, which I think is really interesting, because like listening to Unwanted again, like I feel like that song's kind of me just being like, at least for like the lyrics that I wrote, and then kind of changing it into the perspective from like the random stuff that you had ad-libbed. It was kind of this idea of like giving up the band for me. Like a lot of those lyrics were just like, I want to fall in love, but it meant like, I want to fall in love with like doing music again. And it was kind of me writing about the period of time, like when I was quitting the band. And then like Failures and Fakes again is so much more about like, gotta do it right this time. Like keep everything real. Like don't fake it, like communicate. So yeah. And I know that you don't really know any of that stuff, or but you also have like, I didn't write any lyrics for Melody, or I didn't write a lot of the ones for Amends Again. So
yeah, I think the lyrics of Again were so focused on handmade for me that I didn't really think about analyzing them from like a modern perspective of like rethinking the metaphorical side. Because that's the thing about our music, is I get a lot of people that come up to me or have told me like, hey, this song spoke to me in this way. This song, you know, did this and this and this for me at a time where this and this was happening. And these lyrics spoke to me. And I'm like, that was not really the intent, but that's awesome, because I love, and that's how we write lyrics a lot of times, is that we're not really focused on like an actual circumstance that's happening. Sometimes I write music or write lyrics, or someone in the band, you or Kyle or Andy or Parker, write lyrics in a way where it's focusing on a certain thing that's happening in the present. But a lot of times I feel we often just write lyrics that are metaphorical in a way where people can feel something and hear something that speaks to them in the moment, and it's not super specific.
Yeah, everything, I feel like we're pretty good about keeping things vague instead of just like a one.
Yeah.
It's more of like a universal kind of thing rather than a very specific perspective.
I absolutely hate writing lyrics about something that's in the present, because time passes and I don't want to be talking about a relationship problem I had 10 years ago when now I'm married or have kids in the future, and I'm still talking about some like ex-girlfriend or something. Like, why? It's just,
you don't want to be Taylor Swift when you're like 35 and still singing about your 16-year-old
John Mayer, 15 years ago. Like,
that sucks.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, that's so pathetic.
We don't write. I mean, none of the songs on Again at all like are relationship based. I don't think at all.
I want to say like, Falling Again has always been a very like, people ask a lot about that song. It's a very interesting like concept of a string of songs. So that one kind of might be, but I feel like that's more of like it's more focused on like an inner battle that someone's having with stuff. But yeah, I don't think really,
it's not like specifically like a love song. It's also like a tragic kind of thing. But like you wrote the lyrics to Amends Again, and I think I was like just going in for surgery or recovering it, and you had like most of that done.
That was the thing. Because you were going into surgery and like Kyle was busy and Parker was, not a lyrical guy. Andy was busy. I think that's a lot of the reason why, again, kind of became the way it is because I suck at writing lyrics, and I had this idea in my head to do like part twos, but not part twos of older songs. And then it helped me a lot because I could go back to those lyrics and like rework them in different ways. And it helped my process of doing vocals because I actually had something to build off of, where starting from scratch and like, what am I going to talk about? My garden? Oh, cool. Oh, my dog. Like, I don't know what to do, but you go back to these songs and you're like, oh yeah, like that was a metaphorical thing. Okay. Yeah. I can run with this and write some different stuff that flows with the lyrics from that past song. So that helped me a lot because you guys were kind of out of the picture and you were gone for like what, 2 months almost recovering.
Almost. Yeah, nearly.
And even when you came back, it was
slow going.
I think you were like pretty just trying to get your feet on the ground, trying to go back to work and figure out, post surgery what was going to happen. So even still, I feel like there's almost a 4-month period where I kind of felt like I had to just do it on my own, which is fine. But not saying that you didn't help with anything. We did so much with you and Andy and Kyle and Barker. So yeah, but lyrically there was a lot of
really
vocals.
Man, it didn't feel like it was that long, but it's such a blur to me at this point.
Well, it was what, February of 2021?
It was
2022, right?
No, it was 21. I had surgery like in January, and then I was back to work middle of February.
No, it was 22. It's 2022.
Was it?
Yeah, because we went on tour at the end of that year with False Star and stuff.
No.
Yeah.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I was super fucked up
so
that whole tour.
It was like so it was only 2 years ago. That feels crazy. Like it was 3 years ago, but it was 2 years ago. That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, lots
Weird.
happened. It's crazy to think that Again came out last year because it feels like it came out 2 years ago for me.
Well, we've had it done.
We've had it done for a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Is this the big old Reggie boy? Hi, Reggie.
It's really interesting how you talk about like trying to come up with ideas for lyrics, because I don't do that. Like I don't try to come up with like what am I going to sing about? It's more like a melody will pop in my head and some words will come out, and then I kind of like figure out like, oh, I can kind of spin what I've been just like brain vomiting out onto my phone, like into something that is meaningful. So I can kind of shape around like, oh, I have this really melody that I really like. What can I like? How can I change these lyrics to make them more effective?
Yeah.
But like initially it always starts out with like, is this a cool melody? It's not, are these words meaningful to me?
Yeah, it never starts with God. Been watching One Tree Hill still, and the way that they portray like how songs are written, because like there's a plot, where some of the people are artists, and it's like it literally shows them like, well, you just need to go and like think about your life and like write it down. And it's like, write it down. There's so much more to a song than just writing it down. It's a song. Like, you don't do it that way. You don't just like get a notebook and write down your things and then they become lyrics and then magically the chord progression and everything comes together. No, it doesn't work like that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm all about just like saying random phrases and saying random words, and then finding that phrasing and that melody and then building the lyrics around that. And usually like when that happens, I can tell pretty quickly if it's going to be an angry song or an uplifting song, and then I can formulate my lyrics based upon that. Because we do have some songs that are pretty angry, and they usually start with us just saying the word fuck and shit and ass into the microphone, like while we're actually just like writing phrasing. And those are great words to get good phrasing when you're in like a breakdown spot. And then you just write the lyrics that are not fucks and shits and bitches.
Yeah, it's a really good like foundation to start. Because if the emotion is there, then all of the rest can come later. Like that's like the most pivotal part of that. Like even if you're not saying anything that matters, like if it feels like you are, then you're doing your job.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of bands have done that. Steven Tyler, I always use him as a reference because he talks about, I think he talked about it on the Joe Rogan podcast or something, or maybe he's another interview somewhere where he just talks about how, you know, he just scatting like, he does that all the time when he's back in the day when he was actually writing music. I don't think he does that anymore. I'm pretty sure they've been legacied for the past 20, 30 years. But, you know, when he was doing some of his work, like it was like, that's how he would come up with his melodies. And back then, you know, you didn't have time to just, you know, press spacebar, you know, Control Z, press record again and do it again. Like you really had to take the time to get it right the first time because you only have so much tape before you're running out. So like you really got to do a lot of it in your head. And that's another thing about, I think, why music is different is because so many people, you kind of like lived on the edge. Like you only had so many takes and you got to see that amount of tape that was left in the studio. And it's like, okay, we got one roll left, guys. Like you got to get your guitar parts right, or we have to get more tape and that's going to take a week, but you're only here for 3 more days. So what do we do? Are we going to do this perfectly or are we not? Like the amount of like, pressure that you had at the time, I almost feel like it made people better in some ways.
Either you were like really sloppy and bad, or like you pulled it together and figured it out.
But it's amazing to hear some of these records. It's like the fact that the drums are as tight as they are and the guitars and the bass are just as tight as they are, with there's no editing. It's just straight as good as it is. It's like very impressive about how like crunch time came along and people actually learned how to fucking do it.
Yeah. I was thinking about that with like, especially when bands like progressive bands were starting to become a thing, before you were able to track your ideas. Like, how do you remember, like, okay, we're going to have 4 measures of this, and then I'm going to do this, and then there's going to be a time change, and then we're also going to have this like key change that happens here, and then we're going to go back. Like, how do you remember? Like, because I'll remember like a vocal melody that I come up with for a while, but if I don't like refresh or like keep that in my brain, like it's gone. So I feel like back then you just had to be really good at remembering what you were writing, or like your songwriting was just that good to where it was that memorable, especially like the lyrics.
A lot of people, I was watching Chick Corea is a band, a fusion jazz band. They're almost like Dirty Loops, but from like the 80s. Friggin' amazing. But they focused a lot of the main guy would literally like have sheet music for each member.
Oh wow.
So they're literally like playing to sheet music, so they're like perfect.
Do you think like Rush, bands like that would do the same thing?
Maybe.
Like right.
But the thing too, I'm pretty sure that like Dream Theater, for example, you know, they're in a big practice space in the studio where they're like playing together for hours upon hours of time to build these songs up. And then it's like, okay, I think we got the song finalized. All right, Mike Portnoy, going to the actual drum booth where the real drums are with the mic set up. We're going to record it now. I think that's kind of how it probably went.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you just had to be really, your melodies probably just had to be that good. And that's why probably bands like the Beatles and stuff, right? Super simple 3-chord songs, but their hooks were just so catchy.
Yeah.
That it was probably just so much easier to write that way.
Just hours of playing together. And that, yeah, now it's just like everyone can just send files over and work from, yeah. And that's probably why you heard there was so much more like drama in bands back in the day, because you actually had to spend hours and hours and hours and hours together, like in the same room, actually doing stuff, where now you can just kind of work from home until you get on a bus, but then you can just be isolated on a bus. Yeah.
Most bands don't even live in the same state anymore. Yeah. I watched the Beatles thing that was on Disney Plus, and I watched a lot of it. Yeah. And like, oh my God, the drama. Like there's just sitting there waiting all day, writing all day. Like girlfriends would come in, then fights would break out, and then like drummer would just be sitting there for 8 hours, literally not even touching the drums because people are just fighting around him, and he's just there waiting. Like, fuck that, man. I'm so glad.
Oh, that sounds horrible. I haven't watched it. I've never really been a big Beatles fan.
No, me neither. Not at all.
Well, I feel like this is probably close to wrapping up. We could probably go on for hours about this type of stuff. I think it'd be cool to hear I think it'd be fun to hear Andy's perspective, Andy and Parker, on this. I wonder if we should do a separate episode where it's just those two talking.
Yeah.
Maybe have a third person or a fourth person. We could do 4 people here, but I just think that it's always intriguing to see how every member of a band looks at music, because it's assumed that the band is a group of similar minded thinking people, and no, not at all.
No, I think that's really what works, especially now in the past few years of doing this and like figuring out our roles and our strengths, like because we all are more confident in who we are as people and more competent as people. Like, I think that's like we really kind of just focus on each other's strengths, and it works a lot better because of it.
Totally. Well, this has been another episode of Talk Talks, episode 3, and we'll see you on the next one.